Hey guys, I'm Greg. Welcome to Gregsbeerreviews today. Getting thirsty, how about you? Let's go see what's in the fridge today. Hello everybody, thanks for stopping by Gregsbeerreviews today. I've had this beer for, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 times, maybe even 7 times over the last couple of years. And I thought I'd reviewed it already, but some of my subs said, have you done this beer? And I said, I thought I had, and I looked and I had not reviewed it. And I'm going, oh, this one slipped through the cracks. So this is an awesome beer. But before I tell you what I think of it, let's review this particular one and see what we could end up with here. This is Founders, and I am a big fan of Founders beers. They do some really good stuff. KBS is probably one of my favorite beers, and it's very hard to get here. So this is their Founders Porter, a dark, rich, and sexy, it says underneath here. Imagine that. This beer, they're out of Michigan. This is an American porter coming in at 6.5% ABV. I brought the Duvel glass out for this one because the porters and the stouts, once they get up to 6.5%, 7% or above, I like using this glass because it enhances the aromas. The glassware here says it should be the pint glass, Becker, the Nonic, this tumbler, the mug, or the Stein, or the Sidel. If you want to be poured into a tulip glass or a Duvel glass, by all means do it. I could have used a pint glass for this, but like I said, I like to enhance the aroma just a little bit on these darker, richer beers. So in this glass, achieves that. So let's get on with this one. It says availability is rotating. These darker beers, porters and stouts, go well in the cool fall, wintertime season. They're a little thicker, and definitely a little darker. Then the porters usually are a little bit lighter than the stouts, but sometimes there's a fine line there in between what's a porter and what's a stout. Some of them have that ruby red tinges around them, and they're a little thinner. And usually they're a little lower on the ABVs than the stouts are, but not necessarily. Now that the Americans have got into brewing these beers, they tend to go overboard, and it's really hard to tell sometimes if you did a blindfold test. Some of the beers are a little heavier in the porter range than they were typically intended to be brewed for. These beers, the porters, were intended for the dock workers back in the 17th, 18th century, that they could have a beer or two at lunchtime and go back to work and not be shit-faced. So that's basically what they were intended to, and now that the Americans have got a hold of it, they tend to kick it up a notch or two, as Emerald says, and bam! You have something that is so close to a stout that it's really hard to tell sometimes. So we'll get this in the glass and see what we can see, and see what the mouthfeel and the taste and the look is on this particular beer. Like I said, I thought I'd review this one, but I had not. So we're going to do it right now. What do you think? All right. This is an American Porter, 6.5%. The IBUs on this beer is 45, so it's a little bit more. So with that richer malt and the higher ABV, they have to counterbalance that so it's not overly sweet by adding more bittering hops and stuff like that. And a lot of times that kicks up the IBUs a little bit. So this one is 45, which is some of the IPAs are down in that range. It is what it is. When you make a stronger beer, like in the 6.5, 7%ers, you have to put more hops in it, or it's too sweet. It ends up being overly sweet, and it's not a balanced beer. So these guys up there in Founders in Michigan, they know what they're doing. They make some awesome beers, really tasty stuff. So let's get on with this one. The The glassware, like I said, is pint beakers. They don't like this tumbler, the mug, the side down. I'm going to use a double glass for this one, guys. The beer is not recommended for cellarings unless it exceeds the average range. Well, this one does exceed the average range. So if you want to sell this beer for a year or so, it's not going to hurt the beer. It will still be good, but it may mellow out a little bit more and have a more of a sweet, malty. I don't want to say it's going to detract from the beer taste. It probably won't, but I mean, they make this stuff kind of regularly, so you really don't have to sell it unless you just particularly want to. I actually bought a 6-pack of this beer because I think it's a very tasty beer, and I saved one to do the review with, and we're going to do it here. So I don't think there's anything else we need to talk about other than the food pairing. The food pairing for this beer, the cuisine is barbecue. The cheese is buttery brie, Gouda, Havarti, Swiss. And since it is a porter or a stout, both of them are classified as a dessert beer, because they do go well with chocolate and or even an after dinner aperitif. The meat for this is beef, smoked meat, and grilled meat, but it will go well with your stronger dishes. Anything off the grill will go well with this, unless you're a macro lager drinker. It may be a little too heavy for you. But if you're into the darker beers, the stouts and the porters and stuff, this is a very tasty beer. So I don't think there's anything else we need to talk about. So without further ado, let's get the opener here and get the cap off of this one. And let me tell you what this beer is about. We're going to pour this kind of aggressive. Didn't give us a monster head. Not quite a finger of head on that one. Let's go over into the light and see if we can see any of the light through it. And I do not. I do not see any light coming around, not even any red tinges. So if I was to look at this beer without knowing what it is, I would say this is a stout beer by looking at it. There is no light characteristics transferring through the beer. It is very dark, very black. Very stout, reminiscent. Let's get a nose on it. Rich, dark roasted malt. Some bittersweet chocolate. Some coffee. Maybe even some licorice or some darker fruit, maybe dates, raisins, or plums, something in that category. Very nice smelling beer in the glass. Very awesome smelling beer in the glass. Like I said, if I was blindfolded and then just smelling and looking at the beer without seeing the bottle, I would say, well, this is a stout. So it should be just a little thinner on the mouthfeel, on the taste, but a lot of times, like I said, there's a fine line there, especially with the American brewers, of what a stout and what a porter is. And they're classifying this as a porter. So they would tell me, without tasting it, that it would be a little thinner and a little more watery than what a stout would be, but not necessarily. So. And the head that it poured is basically gone. It dissipated very quickly. Smells awesome in the glass. So let's give it a taste. Cheers, everybody. Wow. That beer is awesome. It should be a regular staple in my refrigerators. And it probably will be. As long as I can get my hands on it, you'll probably see a lot more of this. I really thought I had reviewed this already, but I have not. It's slipped through the cracks, and sometimes that happens. Chocolate roasted malt. Coffee. Dark fruit. Wow. I'll get that on the nose, and I'll get that on the taste. Very balanced beer. I'm not getting any alcohol whatsoever. Awesome, awesome, awesome beer. Very nice, very pleasant. Wow, I don't know what else to say. We're going to let it warm up. It's 40 degrees right out of the fridge. Wow, delicious, delicious beer, guys. This is a little small 12-ounce bottle, so not enough to share. She will get a sip or two out of this one, or three, whatever she prefers to do. And we'll come back and do the final chug and final comments on this one, but it is a very tasty beer. I don't know if it's got any kind of dating on this particular bottle. That would be the only deterrent from getting a 10 grade, and I don't think they date. I don't see anything on this bottle, and it doesn't really have a lot of condensation because it's really not that hot in here, as usual. But that would be the only detraction from that. But even being a 6.5%, it's going to keep for a while. But I would like to have that information on here, either when it was put in the bottle or when the best by date would be on this particular beer. So guys, we're going to let it warm up just a little bit and let the other half sip it, and then we'll come back and do the final chug on this one. But it's an awesome beer. Stick around. I'll be right back. Alright guys, I'm back. Got just a little, maybe just a little bit more than a little bit. Let me want to hit this one more time. Wow. This beer is awesome. Rich caramel, toffee, chocolate, coffee, dark fruit, licorice. Wow. I don't know what you'd want more from the porter. And like I said earlier, if I was blindfolded, I would say this is a stout, but they're calling it a porter, so I'm not going to argue with them. Very tasty, very enjoyable. Everything that you'd want in a porter, and then some. So let's do the final chug on this one, guys. Wow, awesome beer. I don't think I've had a bad beer from these guys. Very tasty, very nice. Everything that a porter and even a stout would have, this beer has. Very balanced, no alcohol taste whatsoever. The only thing that I could fuss about is not having a date on the bottle, which it does not. And being a 6.5%, it's going to keep for a while. Man, there's a little bit left in that bottle. That would be the only thing that I would fuss about, is not having a date on it. So, as much as I want to give it a 10, it doesn't have a date on it. So, I'm going to give it to 9 this time. But it is slapping the 10 all around the face and everywhere else. So, it's a very delicious, very tasty beer. That would be the only thing that I would say that they need to do is put a date on the bottle. So, with that being said, guys, if you had this beer, give me some comments back on this one, whether you liked it or didn't like it. Let's see what everybody else thinks about this beer. Let's go to Beer Advocate. Beer Advocate says it's 95, which is the world-class scale for them, and I'd agree with that. I don't know how I would tell you to make this beer any better than what it is, other than put a date on the bottle. And let's go over to Rate Beer and see what they say. Oh, Rate Beer says it's 100 overall and 100 in the style. So as far as the beer is concerned, it is a 10 beer. But they need to go ahead and step up to the plate and go ahead and put a date on their bottles. Even though it's a 6.5% in this particular style, which they're calling a porter, I can't make any suggestions saying what would make this beer better. The beer is awesome in this bottle. We just need a date on that bottle. Come on, guys. Step up to the plate and put a date on. You're founders, man. Y'all are one of the top 10 craft beer breweries in the country. You need to date your stuff. So if it had a date on it, it would get to 10, guys. That's the way I feel about it. It is a 10 beer in a 9 bottle without the date on it. So, with that being said, if you've had this beer, give us some comments back on this one. Whether you liked it, didn't like it, I loved it. I think it's awesome beer. Blindfolded, I would think it was a stout. And looking at it, I would think it was a stout because it's that dark and very nice mouthfeel. Very, very pleasant beer, guys. So, if you had it, give us comments back on this one. Hit the like button, rate, comment, subscribe. And we've been on a roll here. We had a couple of really, really tasty beers the last couple of days. Unlike last week when we had some that were not so tasty. Won't mention any names right now because, like I said, those things come and go. You'll have some that are not so good. And when you're reviewing beers like I do every day, you'll get some, 2 or 3, maybe even more than that if we're lucky, that are, as Ray Beer says, world class. And I would categorize this as a world class beer. Put a date on it, guys. That's what we need now. Alright, guys. You know what we're going to do tomorrow? We're going to look in that fridge. Hope you can join us then. See you then.